you're like me, you have grappled with that huge life-altering decision, the need for speed or family hauler. But this week I realized it could come in the form of one simple answer. Hey, welcome to the Station Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now this week tasked me with traveling about 1,500 miles round trip. And well, I didn't really know that, well, speed could be an option. Now this week's test drive had a little bit of nostalgic flair. I owning a 2006 Durango, specifically bought for its 3 rows of comfort, V6 power, and towing capabilities, really making everything a family outing, whether going to the soccer matches or to the lake with the toys and everything in between. This week, about 15 years later, well, this test drive was also a family affair. Basically headed up north about a round trip of 1,500 miles, and certainly everything felt the same through here, but tapping that gas, well, something just was so different. Now, before we get into the big numbers of what lies underneath the hood, let's talk about the core of what the Durango is meant to do. Basically deliver people and cargo in one fell swoop. The Hellcat just getting you there a little quicker. Now, by the numbers, this vehicle measured in around about 201 inches. The Hellcat being a little bit longer than the other models, basically superficial with the extra fascia here and there. Wheelbase just under 120 inches. Width not too bad, about 76.5 inches, in height just under 73 inches tall. Lastly is ground clearance around about 8 inches. Now, what I like is how far we come from earlier model Durangos. Some of the earlier models a little bit more hippish, a little bit more flare out at the 4 corners. Naturally, we have progressed in the SUV market, being a lot tighter like we see here, pretty much just shaved off everywhere you look. Tight by the lines, a little bit ridges here and there. No midline really noticed through here, but this extra flare out down the side. And you could say flare is the name of the game with the Hellcat version, specifically up there at that grill warfare. Getting past the basic comparisons to the standard Durango and moving into the Hellcat, you could say everything is full throttle from this point further. First off, looking at the track, now compared to the standard model, the Hellcat is about a ½ inch wider when it comes to the track, both in the front and the back. As this one sits, this is also about 0.3 inches wider here at the back than the front. Now what you're going to find is 295 45s wrapping a 20-inch wheel, and to be expected, red brake calipers, and even more so, the aggressive darkened 4 corners like you see here. No glossy when it comes to the black, but instead of a nice matte finish. The big contrast this week was the cool factor on the outside and the lack thereof sitting behind the wheel. Yours truly. People having some type of stereotype, I assume, of waiting to see who stepped out, and this is what they got. Probably they were expecting someone 20 years younger, a little bit more hair, or even some extra muscle. But, well, what they got was this guy, and that's what I like about the Hellcat. It can dress anyone up and break the mold of the coolness there behind the wheel. Now, what I like when it comes to cool here on the Hellcat is exactly what you see here, the good old grill warfare that isn't just isolated to right here, but this whole front end. And what that really did is taunt other muscle cars driving by. Oftentimes it would cause them to rev a little extra here, get a little bit rumble going, kind of getting that whole taunting going on. Unfortunately, what they got from me was just a little bit, well, tap here and there and just go on about my merry way. Now, looking at the setup, what we have first off is the proverbial racing stripe from head literally to toe, all the way across and through the middle, giving a nice contrast specifically with this white body color and matte black finish. Also, matte black finishes down to the grills dual, which really feed this huge Hemi engine. Nice flare out, of course, here down at the bottom, and as you sweep around, tight body lines. Also menacing is the headlight design. While other SUVs are giving you a huge stack option, this really just aggressive and menacing and literally staring at the competition. Diving a little bit closer, really it's all about the airflow, the lower and the upper grille, but also this scoop here in the middle. But certainly just as important is extracting that extra heat, and you'll find that in the venting on the outer side. This front end a lot more sculpted than some Greek statues we've seen at the museum. Now, sweeping down, one thing I like about safety is, well, preventing these scrapes and dings. This extra fascia is a, well, blunt force trauma just at the good old parking areas. This easily rubbing with some curbing Helping to prevent that is some front sensors. Really allow this vehicle to dive in with ease and no harm, no foul to be expected. Now what I like here on the Hellcat is that the daytime running lights and the turn signal operation are one and the same. When the turn signal is turned on, it's what you see here, the outer portion being the turn signal. As you turn it off, this now goes to the daytime running light. Really makes for a dual approach and a simple design. This week's test drive was all about the marathon, not necessarily the quick sprint, though this engine can do just that when needed. And surprisingly, this one-way travel typically takes about 11 hours. We did get here in about 10 and a half, not sure where the extra effort came in. Now what we have underneath the hood is a supercharged 6.2 liter Hemi V8 engine. That delivers around about 710 horses and 645 foot-pounds of torque. And if you need to know 0 to 60 numbers in a whopping 3.5 seconds, the quarter mile in 11 and a half, and top end speed around about 180 miles per hour. Getting back to the basics, away from performance just for a second, the Durango has to deliver creature comforts, and it all starts here on the outside. First off with the smart key system, adorned in red, of course, with SRT Hellcat emblazoned on the back. Multiple operation, lock, unlock, rear hatch as well, and remote start. But when it comes to, well, quick speed, it's not necessarily 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds here. Instead, it's kind of a two-step approach. If you need to get to the back seat area, unfortunately it's front access only, but place your hand here, everything unlocks with ease. So I'd argue on a performance vehicle like this, if it is the need for speed, well, that means access has to be here as well. Now flipping back to the back, security is a crucial point, and you're going to go high test when it comes to the fill up on this vehicle. And what I also like is security right here, but unfortunately here on the Hellcat, well, this is all access all the time, no lockability. But one thing that does help with the speed here is it is a capless system. Now the race stripe is going to sweep down the roof line and culminate here at the back end. Otherwise, the design is pretty much straightforward, though you will see that black finish wrapping down there at the dual exhaust, a nice finished look. Also safety back here, backup sensors, backup camera. This vehicle really having that surround like safety, helping minimize scrapes and dings, which is most importantly there at the four corners, because that black finish on the rims will show some road harshness in one fell scrape. Now as for the business end of things, at the foundation, the core of this vehicle has to deliver people, not necessarily quickly, but also their things as well. And really what I like is how it does performance when it comes to ease of access. Basically this getting up out of the way. Now there's two ways to do it, on the key fob or simply the release here. And what you're going to find is the 0 to get out of my way is fairly smooth. Now once it's up and out of the way, you're going to find around about 17 cubic feet behind the third row, 43 cubic feet behind the second row, and a whopping 85 cubic feet when all is laid flat. Now one thing you'll notice about the Hellcat is the more you move away from the front end and to the back, it becomes less about performance and more about utility. And what I like back here again is a nice flat seamless floor, but also there's more that lies beneath what you see. Specifically underneath the rear area, you're going to find a decent kind of well that really can house things and of course give you more storage capabilities. Now for the Hellcat, you're going to find room enough for 6 dual chairs in the front and second row, with 2 side by side here in the third. Really nice and easy to lay flat. You got this pull handle here, tumbles it forward. If you need to pull it back up, just simply pull this handle. Now as you go around to the second row, similar operation, everything really nice and made easy. Now what I like with the captain's chairs is just the overall comfort. Certainly the pass through here, armrest in the middle, but simple operation here on the side. Just simply pull that right there, and again it tumbles it forward. If you need to have kind of that access here on the outer side, just simply pull right there, and a huge pathway to the back. Performance on the outside means you're going to get hints of it on the inside. First off, SRT badging front center, some paddle shifters, nothing really to write home about because you can find those on minivans, but what you're not going to find on minivans is, well, tucked away down here. First off, multiple driving modes and that launch control. Over 10-inch touchscreen display really houses everything nice and easy. Split screen like we see here. You can go to more of a full screen. Really nice and colorful. Now, one downside I found was when you're searching, in this case, for your satellite radio, what you hit is maybe the channel button there, and what you see is this micro level kind of icons. I've seen on other displays that this is really zoomed in for the channel in question. Then you kind of scroll across. This needs to be adjusted so at least the one you're on is full screen, because once you select it, of course, it does go full screen, but something's got to be fixed in that scenario. Now, I love shortcut icons. You'll find them down low on the touchscreen system, but you also find these small ones up in the top left corner. First off, you'll see temperature display. That's for dual zones up front, driver on the left, passenger on the right, but also the heated seats. Heated steering wheel lets you know if they're on or off, as well as some other notifications, even right down to the Wi-Fi hotspot and the shortcut button there for the camera settings. So if you press that, for example, you will go full screen, allows you to look at the back and see what's going on. If you're into performance, the one shortcut you want to find is this SRT toggle button. Once you press it, that's going to display on the oversized touchscreen system all the driving modes from auto, snow, tow, custom, sport. But most importantly for most of you, the track modes lets you know how the transmission, all-wheel drive, paddle shifters, everything is set up. And of course, you can go to the custom mode over here. That's going to give you all the ways to set up personally how you prefer, and that's going to be done with this custom setup on the left side here. Now, when you get to the custom setup mode, really it couldn't be any easier. Pretty much with the transmission, you select what you prefer. You'll be in track. You got the paddle shifters on and off, all-wheel drive. Which one do you want to do? 50/50, street, sport, so on. Stability. You've got the ability to set that up. So at a push of a button, you just simply hit the custom mode, and it is designed for the driver. Low on the dash, you'll find the dual climate controls. Nice fan speed in the form of this knob right through the middle. Symmetric knobs for volume and tune select over the left. Up and down switches for the temperature. Now, this does relate to the screen up above as you change it. Now, you can go to the full climate control screen like we have here. Allows you again to barely glance down to interact with this, because these knobs and controls down low do take the driver away from the eyes on the road a little bit more than the screen up above. For the gauge clutch, you're going to find a analog speedometer with a digital tach and digital speed there in the middle with a huge LCD display. Obviously, standard gauges over there to the right. Now, when you interact with the SRT toggle button, that allows you to pick the different driving modes. As you interact with it, it will change a little bit there in the middle, pretty much allowing you to know kind of which mode you're on. You'll see it in the form of this little icon over here on the right. When you click sport, for example, it changes auto and so on. But the most crucial point is really that nice digital readout for the RPMs and the speed really at a glance. Transmission is going to be in the form of a Torque Flight automatic 8-speed transmission with this gear selector option and a manual-like feel if you do prefer to kind of shift with this versus the paddle shifters. Now, you do have connectivity in the form of USBs, USB-Cs, dual, as well as this wireless charging. To simply take your device, slide it right in there, charges up quite quickly. More racing inspiration is going to be found in the form of the interior color on this particular model. Deep burgundy all the way across from front to back. Also decent legroom numbers, around about 40 inches in the front. But where it matters is maybe those backseat drivers, since they can't drive this vehicle, they at least want to have some comfort. And what you're going to find in the second row, around about 38 inches, and not too shabby in the back, about 33. As for the styling, you're going to find again dual caption chairs in the second row with no center console, but instead it positioned there on the floor with dual cup holders and some places to store some items. On the back of the center console, decent airflow with these vertical vents stacking, as well as heated seats for those dual caption chairs in the second row and connectivity. Now, if you're looking for the tri-zone system, not going to be found down here, but instead up above with these nice symmetric knobs that allow you to pick fan speed, temperature select, as well as mode select. That does for this edition where we're on a test drive behind the wheel of the 2021 Dodge Durango SRT Hellcat, a vehicle that delivered a long marathon of a drive with certainly some nice sprints in between, because performance is at the good old tap of the gas. But at the bare foundation is you have that Durango quality. Now this is kind of a one and done year. 2021 is supposedly all they're making this vehicle. Basically grab them up while you can, because, well, Dodge still wants to go back to its core values of what this vehicle can deliver. But in this case, just wanting you to get there a little faster. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.